Ladies and gentlemen, this video is one of the most insane stories I have ever seen in my life. It is about an individual who just got into chess 2 months ago, and in that time has done nearly 2,000 puzzles and has played 2,000 rapid games, recently crossing 1,000 ELO. I have never seen something like this in my life before, and in this video, our protagonist is TYLER1. Some of you may know who TYLER1 is. Some of you may not know who TYLER1 is. Let me introduce you to TYLER1. This is TYLER1. Not to be confused with Tyler 0 or 2 or whatever. This is TYLER1. He is a streamer who primarily plays League of Legends, which is why his physique is so built. It's from spamming all those mouse clicks. TYLER1 is an extremely charismatic and slightly terrifying individual, and as a dedication to him, I am actually wearing a tank top myself in this video. My muscles are not that big. TYLER1 recently competed in the Chess.com PogChamps tournament, and he wasn't that good when he started, but that did not stop his confidence, as I'm going to show you in this clip, where he called me out, and Hikaru Nakamura, and Magnus Carlsen. Adults, there's going to be a bad word or two. You might want to, put your hands over your kids' ears. Kids, if your parents are watching, just tell them to leave the room for a second. Tyler might say a bad word or two. Also, volume warning. And yeah, I mean, if he just fine-tunes a couple things, plays the openings, just the tiny
Shut the fuck up with your backseat gaming. I'm self-taught. Who are you, bro? Give me 1v1 against this guy. I'll put 10 grand. I'll beat this guy first try. Who's this guy to say that he can beat me in chess? You haven't even played me, bro. I level up to my opponent, by the way. I level up. I match the competition. You can put me against that Hikaru guy or the Magnus Carlsen guy. I will body them, bro.
Hikaru or Magnus Carlsen or me playing TYLER1 for a $10,000 match. Now, he might have challenged Andrea and actually succeeded, but that's besides the point. In any case, at that time, Tyler was rated around 200. Well, now, 2 months later, he is nearly 1,100. It is absolutely ridiculous. His growth has been nothing like I've ever seen. In the last 30 days, he has played 1,200 games of chess. That is 40 rapid games a day. That's not even human. This man has done, oh my God, I lied to you. He's done 3,500 puzzles. His puzzle rating is 2,300. This is completely insane. I'm not exaggerating. This is insanity. And he has gotten all the way up to 1,056 rapid. In this video, I'm going to take you through this journey. I'm going to show you his early chess career, and I'm going to show you his recent chess career, because this is otherworldly stuff. I mean, truly, this is absolutely nuts. Wow, my goodness. What can I say? And just, by the way, a little offhand remark. Today we announced the Chess Kid National Festival. Chess Kid is like chess.com, but for children. It's very kid-friendly, kid-safe. 2024, February. I'm going to be a big part of it, so there's a link in the description. I'll put it in. I'll talk about it a little bit more. It's in February. It feels like 10 years away. Anyway, this is the first ever game that TYLER1 played on chess.com. And like most games on chess.com, in your first game, this is how it went. This is July 2023. This is about 60 days ago, okay? TYLER1 plays a game, plays e4, e5, and then he takes a pawn, and, for some reason here, he plays pawn to f6, because, first chess game you ever play, it happens. His opponent takes back in the center, and then goes here, and the knight actually gets trapped. That's not a great move. Of course, white's queen should come down here with queen to d5 check, but we're a little bit, above the pay grade here, and Tyler's actually winning. Tyler's actually his very first game on chess.com. That's how you know he's a god gamer. He's never played chess before, and he's beating an 800 level player. Unfortunately, it is short-lived. Here, the queen is targeting the f7 square and c5, and black has to defend both of those things by playing queen e7 or queen f8. Tyler gives the check, and unfortunately, very promptly, gets checkmated. However, he was winning. I mean, you got to give the guy some credit. This is how you know you have hope in chess, because the very first game you play, you don't know anything about the game, and you still get a winning position. Now, the next game he played was really funny because, you know, he played some pawn moves. Again, I'm not judging his chess play here. I'm just judging the result as a whole. The players pushed a bunch of pawns. TYLER1 took on a4 and blundered the bishop. That's fine. Okay. Takes. Then he played here, here, and here, and here, and here his opponent resigned. This was the first ever game that TYLER1 won. He was completely lost, and either his opponent resigned or abandoned the game. Maybe they were afraid of his muscles, you know. I don't know, but he won this game for some reason. So these were his first 2 games on chess.com. Now, things were going very poorly in the beginning, all right? He was watching my videos and losing a lot of games, kind of like you guys do. And, you know, he was trying out different openings, and he was just kind of like learning the early strategies and trying to not fall into tactical blunders and traps and all these different things. He got up to about 500 rapid, but he was still and he's got the black pieces in this game. This game was played July 18th, so about, 10 days into his chess career. And as you can see, still very much, rough around the edges. Still not quite there with the understanding. Set up a whole little wall here, but his opponent broke through very quickly. Immediately hitting the bishop and the knight into the pawn on e6. TYLER didn't defend it. And then knight takes f8, and then it actually goes from bad to worse here, because instead of taking this, TYLER hangs his queen. So early stage of his career was just like the early stage of any chess player. And, he might watch this and want to kill me, but that $10,000 match is still on the table, I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't chess box TYLER. I wonder, though, don't muscles that big get tired if you throw punches? I don't know. TYLER, don't hurt me. I'm just analyzing your chess games. And his opponent did a nice job here cleaning up, and then just took the e-file, and TYLER just got mated. He had finished his opening on move 8, and on move 19, he was checkmated and also down 10 points of material. Chess is hard, okay? This is July 18th. This man, no disrespect whatsoever, is a bona fide scrub on July 18th. He does not know how to play the game. TYLER, you gotta agree with me, all right? But then everything changed. This man, after PogChamps ended, and he got some wins in PogChamps, he beat Ginny, he beat Squeaks. Those names might not mean anything to you because you're 35 and don't watch Twitch. That's fine. He beat a couple of the streamers. He had a good run. And he decided that he was going to play serious chess. He was going to play chess seriously. And this continued for a while. He was actually pitted in a game against his own brother. This happened at the PogChamps Live final. They weren't there, but they played remotely. This was a brother matchup. We have E-Rob playing against TYLER1. These guys are that sibling rivalry. And in this game, TYLER was a different beast. All right, he came in, and at this point, he started playing what's called the cow opening, which is a terrible opening, but not at the 1000 level. I mean, at the 1000 level, you could basically play anything and be fine. And this opening is kind of good because it protects white. It protects white's king, so you're never getting scholars mated. And TYLER1 has made it work. He likes this opening, all right? D4. And in this game, he kind of played the cow. He played what you're supposed to do in the cow opening. Now, the cow is fine. You can play the cow. You can play the potato. They're all terrible openings. You could play the egg. They're all terrible openings. It's no disrespect on anybody. And his brother lost the bishop. His brother went here, and TYLER1 took it. And then took it, and then came back. And I mean, like, this was already a major evolution in his game. Like, he was getting completely good positions from the opening, and he was not making one-move mistakes. This was already, he was evolving as a player, which is amazing. This game was played August 18th, 1 month after this. Already 30 days, this man plays some openings that he likes, gets positions in the beginning of the game that look relatively reasonable. Maybe we should invite him to the Chess Kid Festival. So, like, everything was good. And I mean, he was doing a nice job. And he was trading, like he was simplifying the position down. Look at this, trading off his opponent's pieces, castling. His opponent was taking space. He was counter-taking space. And then he was rerouting his knight from a passive position to the other side of the board like this. I mean, look at this stuff. This is amazing. It's 20 moves have gone by and white has not blundered any pieces. For a 500, that is very impressive. Now he starts attacking the queen side. In a closed position, you can either maneuver your pieces or your pawns, and TYLER1 is making pawn trades to make progress in the position. Look at this. Trading down, and now he's got the pawns going here. This is amazing stuff. Plays queen b1, g3 to kick the queen out, and then just keeps advancing into his opponent's territory. This is super, super well-controlled game of chess. King g2 to defend the knight. Excellent stuff. Rook to c1. Look at this. Knight to g5 hits the queen, and now he trades pieces. He's just trading pieces down, and look at this. This is amazing. Just amazing stuff. Pawn to h4. Unfortunately here, a slight disaster happens because he forgets that the queen sees the rook. And he goes here. That's fine. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But his opponent misses it and then forgets that the queen now guards the rook, pre-moving this, I guess. And now TYLER1 is winning. TYLER1 has played 40 moves of chess in this game and has not made a mistake. I mean, this is incredible. He could take the rook. He's just going to promote. He could give it a couple of checks. He gives a check. He misses that he can take the rook, but, you know, now this. I mean, this man has not made a single mistake this game. He hasn't. He hasn't made a single... 561 playing like this? Now it's very simple. You have to glue the king to one of these ranks, promote the pawn, and give a mate. And that's exactly what he does. Look at this. Look at this. This is incredible. Check. Check. Not the checks that I would give, but it's mate in one now. It's mate in one on g7 or h8. Okay, he misses it. Now it's mate in one on g7 with both queens, on c5, on d6. And he goes here and draws the game. So, this man played 52 good moves. He played one bad move and he threw the entire game. And that's life. I gotta tell you, you know, you cannot get frustrated. A lot of people get frustrated. This man was up 25 points of material and just had a brain fart. And that happens, you know, you gotta give checks. You just, when you're winning, you just have to make sure that you are giving checks, okay? You are giving checks. Otherwise, something like this might happen and it's devastating. But he wasn't devastated and he grinded. And I will remind you that from that point, from August the 18th, we could scroll all the way back. I mean, it's not even fully possible to see his game archive because look at how many games he plays every day. I mean, I can click like page 7 and it will be like still September 10th. I can page 7. You can't even go back that far. He just played non-stop. This is totally crazy. I've never seen something like this. And he broke 1,000. And I'm going to show you his last couple of games. Like, these are real serious games now. None of that pushing pawns one rank stuff. This man is playing some real chess. And his games are scrappy. And he is playing the cow in every game. He is playing pawn-pawn, knight-knight, knight out, and then bishop. And nobody knows how to stop this. The position is, of course, slightly worse for black. Black is a little passive, but who cares? Sometimes Tyler goes here and makes trades. Sometimes he goes here. This man has a system. He plays it with white. He plays it with black. And what can I say? Pawn takes, knight d5. Maybe that challenge to Hiraku or whatever he called Hikaru and Magnus Carlsen and me is serious. All right? He gets a position that looks like this from the opening, and now let's see him play chess. How does a guy that learned chess basically 2 months ago play against 1000s? Okay, pawn to c6, pawn to b5. Not exactly, you know, the computer's preference, but he's opening the position, and there's going to be an attack brewing over here. Queen e4 attacks the pawn, he defends the pawn. His opponent plays bishop d3, immediately hits the queen, immediately taking advantage of the situation. Rook to d8 puts pressure on the bishop, and this move is very tricky. The idea of this move is to get Tyler to take so that he gets mated. But who is enabling the checkmate? The bishop. Black has one check in this position. You always have to look for the more forcing move. Look at this. Bishop to h4 attacks the queen, and you can't take. A lot of people here would play pawn to f6. TYLER1 realizes what's worth more than a queen? A king. Check. That is genius for the 900 level. Now rook takes, and now he takes. Guys, this is some gangster stuff. I mean, I'm telling you, this is a guy who is unleashed 3,500 puzzles worth of tactics. That is how you get better at chess. Now, I'm not saying you need to do this within 2 months. Some of you, are not able to dedicate that much time or attention to something like this, but takes. Now Tyler takes the rook, and he takes the knight. And now he takes the pawn with check, simplifying into a winning endgame. This is nuts, okay? That is crazy. Now, white plays the best move, which is rook to d1 to try to get in over here. Now, this is still a pretty tough position. He plays h5, gets his king some breathing room, defends his bishop, loses a pawn, but now he has to get out. Okay, he's slowly finding his way out of the position. He starts bringing his king. All right, there he is, bringing the king. Nice, brought the king. Pawn to c5. He's going to have to start bringing some other pieces out. Is he going to figure out how to do this? King d5, rook e4, okay. Bishop b5. Now white's rook is kind of stuck. Check, but now white's rook is kind of stuck. White tries to break out like this. And here, Tyler did essentially what's kind of like the, any of you watch Naruto? Naruto versus, when Rock Lee drops his belt. TYLER1 loses his bishop. Rook to c6 check. Good fight by the players. White doing a nice job pestering black, not letting black break out of the position. But by putting your rook over here, Tyler decides, you know what? Run it down mid. TYLER1 is a League of Legends player at heart. Run it down mid. Run it down mid. The king says, I'm going to go do the dirty work myself. Sometimes the mob boss has to take out the garbage. That's just how it works. The henchmen aren't doing a good job. Rook a4, king f3. Rook c4, king g2. His opponent panics, plays f5. He takes. Rook e3. Rook e4 check. Rook takes h4. Rook e4 check would have led to an endgame that looks like this. And here, actually, it's white who is winning because of the two pawns. But that's life. It's the person who makes the last mistake. Pawn to f4. Instead of being greedy and taking this pawn, TYLER1 runs it down mid. Queen, his opponent resigns. And this is how TYLER1 broke 1,000. The most impressive moment in this game for me by far was the ability to spot knight takes d3 check. That is a sign of a player that has a future in the game of chess. Chess is all pattern recognition. And to be like, my queen is hanging, but instead of defending it, do I have any checks? Yeah, with the knight. I said before, this is the only check. It's because my brain just threw away this move because it's obviously a bad move. Knight takes d3, knight takes h4, removing the attack on the checkmate. Incredible. Just awesome. Awesome, awesome stuff. What to say? But there's more. He wasn't done. You thought he would just stop at 1,000. There's more. His games have been so crazy. His games are like wars. I mean, I'm telling you, bishop b4 check. People really struggle to deal with this opening for white because there is nothing you can really do principles-wise. Like, when white plays the cow and gets a position that looks like this, white is not really worse. I mean, white has technically wasted a little bit of time, but, like, this is not going to get played at the candidates or something, but, knight d2. Okay, he loses the pawn on c3, but he just plays rook b1 and takes the file. A pawn at this level is not really a pawn. And now his opponent gives up the bishop and the bishop for the rook, which is a bad deal. Giving up 2 pieces for a rook is almost never good. And now TYLER1 has both bishops for the rook. So he just has more pieces than his opponent, who very promptly allows queen takes b7. Now, this game has an apocalyptic vibe to it. Okay? I want you to just watch, because this is very funny. What you're about to watch is super, super funny. TYLER1 in this position, of course, can castle, but he very correctly spots that his opponent gave up the b7 pawn. Boom! Just a free pawn. Now black plays knight to d4. And, you know, with white here, you should probably get the queen out. But TYLER1 takes the knight. And now, very simple, castles. Very simple. He hasn't castled yet. His queen is still bothering. And now white is going to try to mobilize the knights. Black gets the c-pawn out of the way. TYLER1 immediately attacks the queen. Queen to b4. Here it would be a very bad decision for white to trade queens because it would allow black to have two connected passed pawns marching down the board. That is basically impossible to stop. So queen c7. And at this point, black realizes, wait a minute, I have pawns. a5. Now, TYLER1 here could be a scared little boy and start to, you know, go back and play defense. This man... When I tell you that this game has an apocalyptic vibe, just watch. Black marches down the board like it's, you know, Will Smith in I Am Legend. There is nobody else around on that side of the board, so he just goes for a queen. Queen e5, pawn to a4. At this point, TYLER1 realizes, wait a minute, I'm going to lose this game unless I act now. Like, this pawn is just going to go. So, queen f5... Knight to g5. TYLER1 is going for a mate while this pawn is marching. If a2, he's going to play knight h5. If a1 queen, he takes and it's mate on the next move. This is nuts. This is completely nuts. Knight g5 in this context is genius. Black probably has to get... Black does the wrong thing. Black goes here. Black loses the knight. Not only does black lose the knight, now the promotion square is also covered. This is really, really, really bad news for black. But black sticks to the plan, and now TYLER1 is winning with knight f5, has to be taken, and this is unstoppable mate. That's a little bit difficult to see. Instead, TYLER1 goes here, and now black, super, super clutch, blocks the queen by playing queen to d4. This is really bad, because if TYLER1 trades the queens here, he's not going to stop the pawn. Rook a1, rook b8, rook b1, and TYLER1 is going to lose. So, instead, TYLER1 plays the top computer move, e5, allowing the queen. This is nuts. He's not even losing. There are two queens on the board. If TYLER1 takes, then after rook a1, he's going to lose because he cannot stop this. But this man does not panic and realizes his king is actually safe. The queen is knocking on the door, but TYLER1 is still playing for a win, and he takes the rook. Black is slowly losing material. Black is unable to take with the rook because the rook needs to guard the pawn because check and mate. So black can go queen e5 or queen a8. Black plays queen a8 and now is losing again despite being up an entire second queen. Because knight f5 takes queen h6, the same tactic, but that's very tough to see. So instead of that, TYLER1, sensing that he's hitting a brick wall, decides h4, which is not the most accurate move, but I gotta love the idea. Now, the queen takes the pawn. And TYLER realizes that now the queen no longer pins the pawn to the queen, so he plays e6. TYLER1 is knocking on the door, and may I remind you that TYLER1 looks like this. You better not get him mad. That smile is deceiving. This man plays pawn to e6. Pawn takes f7 is a massive threat. Black has to take now and make a draw. The computer is now recommending that the players shuffle the moves, but instead of that, the opponent plays pawn to h6, pawn takes f7, and TYLER1 wins the game with checkmate against two queens. This is so crazy. This is so crazy. This man's games are unbelievable, and he's so clutch, counter-attacking the king while allowing a pawn to promote. 2 months of chess, y'all. This man started playing chess seriously like 40 days ago. 3,500 puzzles, 1,200 games in 30 days. I've never seen something like this. I never have. People talk about speed runs and all this stuff. This is beyond that. This is an otherworldly level of play. And I think I found one more very fun game for you that he played. He had a game with the black pieces. sometimes, you know, sometimes he blunders in the opening. Sometimes he tries to implement the game plan. And, you know, look at this. For example, h4. He realizes, wait a minute, that's free. He's right, but it's very dangerous to take that pawn. As you can see from the evaluation, because now you've opened up this. He's got to be very careful taking that pawn. Queen h5 now is winning for white. Battery and attack on h7. But TYLER1 is a dog. Bishop to f6. TYLER1 is completely lost in this game. But this man does not go down without a fight. Rook to g1. He takes, and plays queen f6. It is +8. All his opponent has to do is open the door. Open the door for the rooks and the bishops, and it's over. Takes, bishop h7, king here, queen h5. Like it's just here. You're gonna lose at some point. Rook h8, queen h5, all over. His opponent plays one inaccuracy. TYLER takes and immediately launches his own counterattack, spotting that that is not checkmate. Knight a4 and queen b2 is checkmate. What does his opponent do? Takes on g7 anyway. Spends 3 seconds out of his 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Plays this. It's not mate at all. And here, TYLER1 has to either play king f6 and run, or king h8, because this move loses. Rook g1 check. Bishop g7 check. Bishop anywhere on this diagonal. Check. Here. Bishop g7, and any of these moves is a mate. Not that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But instead of that, his opponent takes the rook. Now it's time for TYLER1 to fight back. f6. Grabs the bishop. He's got no business at all winning this position, but he goes here. And this move threatens the pawn, and people are reactive by nature. So his opponent goes, oh, my pawn is hanging. I got to defend it. TYLER1 doesn't need a second chance. And his conversion here, clinical. e5, chop, chop, chop. Stops the pawns, stops that pawn as well, takes that pawn, and now he just goes down. He doesn't even care about losing the bishop because he has so many extra pawns. Rook e4, bishop g... Okay, loses the... We're going to pretend that didn't happen. King f6, king e5. Doesn't take the rook because he doesn't need it. d5, bishop f5 check, and his opponent resigns because he's going to lose the rook. I'm not sure... TYLER1 saw that for sure. His games are so wild. Like... You have got to bury this man into the ground to beat him, because he's winning these absurd back and forth games, but they make sense. Like, they make sense. He's defending well, he's fighting back from unpleasant positions, and he's taking his chances when presented. This is one of the most insane stories I'm telling you that I have ever seen. This man in 40 days has played over 1,200 games of chess. That's unheard of. That is unheard of. Kudos to him. Now get out of here.